Hello everyone, myself Raj Bhargav, and I'm working as a cybersecurity analyst in Indian Cybersecurity Solutions. I welcome you to today's session. So today's session is about we'll be discussing about broken authentication. So like quickly share my screen. I hope my screen is visible to you, right? Okay. So our today topic is about broken authentication. Okay. So, coming to broken authentication, what is meant by broken authentication? So, broken authentication is a several vulnerability that attackers exploit to imperson and legitimate users online. Broadly, broken authentication refers to weakness in two areas: session management and credentials management. Both are classified as a broken authentication because, like, attackers can use a to masquerade a user hijacking session ID or store and login credentials. So session management, let's see about session management and all. Importance of secure authentication, like we need to protect user accounts, maintain data privacy so that like account user should be able to free like data and all prevent unauthorized access to that data. Basically, we need to follow the CIA confidentiality, integrity, and availability of the data. Okay. So session management. Coming to the session management is a part of broken authentication. But the two terms are often listed side by side. So people don't assume that authentication refers only to username and password. Since web application uses sessions and credentials to identify individual users, attackers can impersonate them using either mechanism. So, coming to session management and attacks like session hijacking, session ID URL redirecting, session fixation, these type of attacks, we can do it. So, coming to session hijacking, so without appropriate safeguard, the web application is vulnerable to session hijacking, in which attacker use stolen session IDs to impersonate user identities. The most straightforward example of session hijacking is a user who forgets to log out of an application and then walks away from their devices. So, an hacker can continue their session by copying just the session hijacking by session ID URL rewriting. Another common vulnerability of session hijacking is URL redirecting it. In this previous scenario, an individual session ID appears in a URL of a website. So anyone who can see it, such as via an unsecured Wi-Fi connection, can piggyback into the session. This is how Zoom bombing will happen. Next, coming to session fixation, one commonly overlooked, this one is like commonly overlooked, and is to rotate session IDs after user logs in. So instead of giving the user the same ID before and after authentication. So web applications fail to do this, are vulnerable to a session fixation attack, which is a variation of session hijack. So attackers exploit weak and compromised credentials. So attackers, we attackers have discovered the easiest way to access off-limit system is to log in with someone else's credentials. Phishing and using social stolen credentials are now the most common mechanism to execute a data breach. Credential stuffing: when attacker uses a database filled with unencrypted emails and passwords, they frequently sell or give away the list of other attacks to use. These attacks, they use botnets for brute force attacks that test credentials stolen from one site on different accounts. This tactic often works because people frequently use the same frequently use the same password across applications. Password spraying, another attack. Password spraying is a little like credential stuffing, but instead of working off a database of stolen passwords, it uses a set of weak or common passwords to break into an user's account. And next, coming to phishing attack. So attackers typically fish by sending user an email pretending to be from a trusted source and then tricking user into sharing their credentials or other related information. It can be broad-based attempt that it's everyone at an organization with the same phone email. It can take the form of a spear phishing attack tailored to a specific target. So how we can fix this broken authentication? So we need to control session length, rotate and validate the session IDs. If it is inactive, the session should be expired. Don't put session IDs in the URL. Implement multi-factor authentication. Uh, use big strong passwords as OS recommends, and don't show the passwords in clear text. Uh, and we need to guard it act like we need to guard our against some attacks like phishing training we need to give implement brute force other protection like rate limiting and doing okay so let me show you use some lab recording being that so just wait a second let me quickly share another screen. I hope it is visible. So let's see here, just I'll just show you how we can bypass two-factor authentication as you see over here. This is a Portugal lab. Uh, so as you see over here, he tells us to bypass the 2FA for this particular Carlos or Monte account. Your credentials is like Vina or Peter. Like he given for us to log in the credentials and all. So let's log in and see into our application and all. Okay, just a second. I guess it's not working. Portugal is not working. Okay. So here, what he given for us to log in Wiener and Peter, right? Wiener, Peter, and is asking us to bypass this victim's credentials, Carlos and Monte. So login, not now. So please enter your four-digit code. Here we'll be getting it to our email server. So what is the code that we got? 1324, right? 1324. Login. So now we see over here after logging in, yes we see my account right before login and all let's see again. See over here login to and after logging in my account right. Let's try changing that and see what we can do. So what is the password Carlos and Montoya, right? As given Carlos and Montoya. So now it's asking for us four-digit security code. So now what I do here, I'll just take the login to and give my account. See, this is how I bypass that 2FA for this. Not only this, like there are multiple ways to bypass 2FA. So again, let's get back to our part. I shown you how we can bypass a 2FA. Next, coming to our part over here, common authentication vulnerabilities, weak password policies, lack of multi-factor authentication, insecure session management, and insufficient password reset functionality. If the password reset functionality is not properly function properly, then we can try to reset the password someone else uses, and we can able to log in into their account. Weak password common issues like weak password policies, common issues, short passwords or like weak passwords that are vulnerable. Simple like default passwords, admin and admin. These passwords should not be used. We need to enforce strong passwords. Minimum length should be 8 and all. Benefits robust password policies will help the company so that breaches won't be happen authentication system and all. Lack of multi-factor authentication. So user and password alone are no longer sufficient for secure authentication. SMS or app through SMS or app, like we need to get a password so that like we can use it. Otherwise, biometric authentication or security keys, sometimes if we forgot the password and all, we can use the security keys passwords to log in into our mails. I guess you all know about this. So insecure session management. Um, Session hijacking, weak session IDs, insufficient session expiration. As I mentioned, your session I can steal and use validate session, weak session IDs that are predicted and easily guessable can allow session takeover, insufficient session expiration. As I previously mentioned that after some time, like the session should be expired if it is inactive by the user. Insufficient password and reset functionality. Password reset request should be mentioned verification. So we should verify that whether the user is what particular user is doing or not. Exposure of sensitive authentication data like passwords, session tokens, or other thing. Implement strong password properties to mitigate broken authentication. Enable multi-factor authentication and secure session management. Best password hashing, secure password reset, secure data storage, and regular security assessments. Okay, so this is all about broken authentication. Okay, thank you for your class session. Thank you all.